Partnered by Times Influence.
Communication is fundamental to the existence and survival of humans as well as organizations. With time, the business of communication has evolved greatly, and so has the role of communicators. With the growing popularity of the social media networks, communication has taken on an entirely new dimension. To analyze the trends and future outlook of the industry, India Communication Summit 2019 brought together ace communication specialists and industry movers and shakers on a single platform. The event witnessed a very exciting day of exchange of thoughts, ideas and experiences among industry experts.
Your product is the heart and centre of your experience. But the reality is, no matter what you say about your product, it actually can sometimes be a tool against you if your product doesn't do what you say. So when it comes to doing PR that is focused on putting your product first, the product has to perform, and you need to be able to show people in a meaningful way, how does it actually deliver convenience? How is it useful? How does it save you time? And as somebody who obviously interacts with a lot of journalists every single day, as well as with a lot of government officials, one demo, side by side with someone, on your phone or theirs, is worth 1,000 email pitches, 1,000 attachments that people don't open, 1,000 posts that don't have hashtags that people can discover. You've got to put your product in people's hands so they can experience it. Great storytelling is also about heart and emotion. You have to find a way to connect beyond just, this is what I am saying, to this is how it should make you feel. And the best way to do that, in addition to obviously telling your own story, is finding other people who can speak for you. And I will tell you, working for Uber, I have never been in a situation before where I have millions of people who are my spokespeople who I have no control over whatsoever. And that's our driver partners, our delivery partners, our restaurant partners. The ecosystem that makes pushing a button and getting a service possible also means that there is real-time, raw feedback whenever anybody is in the back of a car, they're receiving a delivery, they're interacting with a restaurant partner. So we have to make sure that not only do we know where is that heart and emotion in the story, how close are we to our customers so that we can find and spotlight and highlight their experiences, but we can also connect the best of those experiences through third parties speaking independently in their own voice.
I've been able to see this amazing emergence of the communication industry, its professionalism improve, the rise of the fees and the importance. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I really do believe that what we are seeing today across Asia will continue. I'm very optimistic, and I'm particularly optimistic about what's happening here in India. I think China, its growth has slowed a bit, both economically and in the communication industry, though still robust. And India is really rising, and I think that this is, in fact, India's time. Let's see. So in this slide here, you could see some interesting statistics about the rise and the growth of communications in the two giant Asian markets of China and India. But if you look at these growth figures in just the last 6 years, we have a compound annual growth rate in India of 18% and in China of 14%. That essentially means that during this time frame, if you were doing communications in 2012 to 2017, you've doubled your size in India and just under doubling in China. Those are remarkable figures of growth.
Next in line was a fireside chat between two very special guests from very distinct backgrounds. This chat gave us a deeper understanding of the communication patterns and do's and don'ts of corporate communication.
Let's start with the recent incident of Hardik Pandya and Rahul. Poor guys, they went for a chat show, and you can say Karan Johar asked them some innocent questions and they answered, and then you know what happened post that. What are your do's and don'ts for those sports professionals to manage media or manage communication?
You say that Johar asked a few innocent questions, and Hardik, they weren't innocent questions. They were very leading questions. And poor Hardik Pandya, KL Rahul, I must say, was a little more constrained because he only smiled or, sort of laughed in appreciation of what Hardik was saying. But Hardik walked right into it because, and we roll that back to why. Yeah. On one hand, of course, we're all individuals. We are unique. Nobody's like anybody else. So why should we be like sheep? Why should we be like, what's the word here? Clones. Yeah? We're not. Everybody is unique. But just like any sporting skill, or any skill at all, writing, anything, can be taught. And so cricketing skills in this case are taught. So where we lack is just informing people, if not teaching, informing continuously in a sustained manner, other requirements of once you reach a potentially higher standard in the world of sport, how else are you supposed to conduct yourself? That training is very perfunctory at this point of time. So people turn out to be very good at their profession, but not in all-round development sense. And that, of course, as we can see in Hardik's case, was dangerous. So in Hardik's case, it's just a question of not being told enough times what is the PAB, publicly acceptable behavior. But that also is depending on which public, when, where, how. So on television, you say something like that, it's likely to stay there for a very long time. It's not going to go away.
You made a very good point, they're role models. But unfortunately, when the growing up years, they come from poor background, like Himadas, and they focus on excellence. They had very little education. When they come there, suddenly they're thrown into limelight. So, like Rahul Dravid recently talked about soft skill training, training them life after sports, because only less than 1% of the top sportsmen really will make it big in their life. So where this training should begin? At their home, the initial coaches, or the boards when they take over, when they're playing with different teams, the teams should take care of that. See, currently the system is missing. So if you have to propose a system to make that happen, how will you go about it?
Well, that's an easy one, of course. Home is always there, right? The home teaches you many things when you're growing up as a child. So therefore, parents and the rest of the family situation will teach you a fair amount about how to behave in front of home. But do kids listen to parents? Maybe not. So it gets a little difficult there. But they do pick up skills. Where do they pick up skills? In some academy, in some school, in some wherever else. You don't just, like I said, wake up one day, being a top-notch sports person. So that is where these all-round character building skills needs to happen. And just to give you another quick example, you mentioned the Pro Kabaddi League. I'm very, very proud of that, by the way, because it was a nation-building attempt in getting our own unique unique heritage sport out into the sunshine. So it started on the 26th of July, 2014, and I knew that would be the day that would change Kabaddi forever. But there was at least 2.5 years of work before that to train at least the top Kabaddi players, because you only had access to them in the national camps and what have you, say about the top 35, 40 at times. And in the main, they were, I hope will continue to be very well behaved. And I think a large section of the media was very pleasantly surprised.
2019 being an election year, multiple communication vehicles are shaping the voters' point of view. In this context, our next panel discussed the role of communication in politics and how the digital revolution is influencing the voters' confidence.
While we talk about political correctness, whether being politically correct, is that an advantage today or is that a disadvantage? I'm the first one to admit it on any public platform that there is a lot that's wrong with the world of news, but I also think that there is a lot which is right with the world of news. Similarly, there's a lot which is wrong with the world of politics, but there's, something which is right with the world of politics. We'll see if we can switch between the two sides. So let me start first with you, Sanjay. Politically correct. Would I be correct to say that certainly post 2012, 2013, politically incorrect being the basic benchmark for you to deliver a convincing message?
Firstly, I would like to say that politically incorrect, if you take a poll amongst the Janta here, they will say is an oxymoron, the way politicians have been generally conducting themselves. But, being politically correct is actually subject to change over time and interpretation. I can tell you in 2013-14, before the new government of Mr. Modi took charge, politically correct meant that, you are trying to be civil, you're trying to be polite, you're actually making conversations happen between people. As in a political party with a colleague like Shazia, or any conversation between people on a public platform. Today, politically correct since 2014 has become, don't offend anybody. Don't offend somebody's sensibilities, because what we have discovered is that everybody is wary. Suddenly the environment is all about, don't say anything because somebody is going to get angry. We are living in an age of anger. And I think being politically correct, unfortunately, is not about respecting somebody else, but about holding your view back because you don't want to create some kind of furor that might boomerang on you.
India belongs to everyone, nowhere which part of India you are in. And whenever you are in doubt that a certain community is not as nationalistic as you are, you must go out. Don't make those judgments sitting on a couch in your drawing room watching a television or reading a WhatsApp. Go out and dissolve yourself in the country. I think beyond anger, this is a discourse of illiteracy about what India is.
I feel that this whole myth that is bandied around all the time is that things were different between 2014, and somehow the whole the mood or the public discourse has gotten vitiated. Preceding 2014 elections was the Anna Hazare movement, 2011, and we all know, and here we have the advocates of free press and political correctness who are known for their stand in emergency, who are the ones who actually threw Anna Hazare in the jail. So I don't know what we're talking about. I think that Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp are the new medium. But I think more or less there is a lack of political correctness in our society. We are largely divided. And what will reflect through the party and the political discourse and in public life will be a representation of a certain hypocrisy as well.
Coming up next, a fireside chat between two industry leaders about roles and responsibilities a CEO should seek while hiring a communication professional. Stay tuned. India Communication Summit 2019 set the agenda that addressed current issues and emerging trends in the field of communication, brand building, corporate marketing and crisis management.
So the core of a business of telling a story remains intact. The format will change. We just need the story to have more emotion. It needs to stand out a bit more in this world where you need to be heard more.
There is little ambiguity about the roles and responsibilities that today's communication professionals must shoulder. To understand what are the most desirable qualities versus those qualities that they simply can't do without, we bring you an invigorating fireside chat.
As a business leader, as somebody who's been building businesses over the years, specifically in retail but across industries, how do you see the role of a communicator emerging? And you've been a communicator yourself. But if you were to look at communicators inside an organization, outside, what would be your advice? I mean, what should they be doing?
See, now all of us in marketing or even business can't be away from this word communication or PR or CopCom or whichever way you choose to say it. Actually, in the end, it all revolves around a consumer. Because after all, what is the company for or what are brands for? The end goal is the customer. So I think if you start with the customer look at the way the customer has changed. I mean, look at 15, 20 years back when we were there, when malls came up, people used to call this term killed mall rat. People had to go and, kill time. But in today's world, if you see Netflix or Hotstar or content on YouTube or channels, and people are becoming channel now, not just watching. And in the world of platforms, I think what's happening is that, and I check my time on a mobile rather than on a watch. So I have this saying which I say that everybody has time in their hands, but still nobody has time, because that's how busy we've become. And that's only thanks to digital, because there is so much content coming towards you. So how in that age you read the consumer, whether you're marketing or PR, in the end, it is that. And I think there's been terms like paid media, earned media, but to me, the whole customer shift has happened from marketeers used to push content or advertisement. It was a one-way. I think that world is over. It's a two-way. Where we used to say marketeers build brand, but I personally don't feel, at least now, and if you're building a brand digitally, or if you see the startups, the brand's not alone built by the marketeer. It's curated by the customer or the consumer in it, because they're shaping it by contributing to it. Like, what would be YouTube without people putting content? So YouTube puts no content on YouTube. The YouTube company puts nothing. 100% of it is put by consumers. And other consumers are watching it. Google changed the world, right? Like, if you want to know something about a brand, company, person, you Google. And if your search doesn't come up on the top, people are not going to go, if there are 10,000 searches show up, you're not going to go to 10,000 search. You'll see 2, 3, 4 top ones. So to me, even the comp people or the fraternity needs to become digital, because unless you can do data analytics and cull out what the world is talking about, and then you can intervene and contribute and add value, how are you going to build the brand's perception online?
I think interesting perspective, and usually consumers have such little patience. You know, they're absolutely reactive about one bad experience, and you spoke about customer journeys and experience playing the complementary role with communication and building brands. And the moment they have a bad experience, they want to share it. In fact, very few times do people want to share a great experience. So in such a scenario, what should the comms guy do?
Today, anybody in a company can tweet or write, right? Of course, there are laws and there are rules, but today pretty much you can't control when something goes viral. So if there's this institute called Great Places to Work, and it's only built by employee feedback, that they themselves feel that they work for a great company. Now, I have always wondered that it is led by HR, but for me, it's always a comms thing. But is it marketing? Is it comms? Is it HR? In some companies, I've seen HR dealing with them. In some companies, I've seen but who is the biggest influencer or a votary of the company where you work? The associates or the employee? And if they go out and speak good in their circle of influence, or if I tell 5 people it's a great place, they get influenced. Because who are you going to believe otherwise? Because people believe in people all the time. Earlier, there was no method to hear people. But now, thanks to reviews, rating, I mean, on Uber feedback, or even on Amazon, Flipkart, on the reviews, people trust that. So people trust people. Eventually, we're going to trust people. And earlier, I've seen that marketing role would end, or a campaign or a brand would get launched, and then comms work would start. I think those days are gone. Today, you have to have an equal seat. And from right beginning, you need to integrate comms into the whole plan, whether you call it marketing campaign, brand launch, whatever.
One of the most formidable challenges that today's communication professionals face is how to react, respond, and recuperate from a crisis. The next panel discussion saw industry veterans describing their personal experiences while managing some of the biggest crises of their professional careers.
Crisis, by definition, is an unexpected disturbance. Can you really prepare for it?
We have some methods that we follow, keep on following in our communication business. But most of the time, we face crisis when it's most unexpected. So every time you face a crisis, you need to take a stock of the situation. You need to be very, very swift in the way you think. You have to think on your feet. And you learn from every crisis. Every crisis that you face, it's a different experience. No crises are identical. Whatever you learn from one crisis, you can replicate in another situation if you face it again. But at every step, you need to keep on reinventing yourself, reinventing your strategies.
Today, we live in this country at a time which is, some of us may say it's a crisis situation, because we almost, the very high tension on the border, and LOC and all of that we have witnessed in the last few weeks. For most of the crisis, you can prepare. The character of that crisis, the magnitude of that crisis, the nuances of that crisis may change. Almost 90% of that crisis you could, in some way or the other, preempt. You know, I can face a food safety crisis, I can face a branding crisis. Pesticide was a food safety crisis, right, where people said that you have so much of pesticide content and stuff like that. Now, with time, The preparedness for that crisis is all about what kind of an SOP you develop, the protocol that you develop. What is the standard operating procedure? How do you prepare the leadership all the time that, God forbid, if there's something like this happens, this is what you will do. This is how my channel of communication is going to go. This is what I will monitor. This is how I will maintain my understanding of social media. This is the point in time when I will react. So to a large extent, I would say there can be a preparation for the crisis.
From my perspective, when I look at it, at least in our company and industry, is it actually business threatening? Is it something which has caught all of us by surprise? Is it something which is requiring us to take critical decisions in a very short time frame? If either of these three characteristics is not being met, it's not really for us a crisis in that sense of the word. Everything else is what we refer to as it's ugly sibling possibly, or an unruly sibling, which is issues management, and that could be related to either customer issue, it could be related to a network coverage issue, it could be related to a issue to do with interpersonal handling of a particular situation, either internally or externally. It could be a legal and compliance related issue. But fact of the matter is the business existential crises are very few and far between. It's more on these issues, and every issue that you face, there is a repository. We're a service industry, and most of the times these issues crop up because there is a problem either in the service delivery, or there is a challenge in terms of the customer not willing to accept the service that you are providing.
I would say that keep the momentum on, and if you haven't unfortunately, what happens with the Indian country, especially with the Indian companies, is that we don't focus on, the pre-planning piece of anything. And you've seen this country has gone through so much, including what has happened recently. The focus always comes on now what are we going to do. So no matter how much you prepare, the objectivity comes in only when we have the crisis, sitting on our table.
The media is evolving and it's changing very rapidly, and we as communications professionals need to be able to work hand in hand to understand the needs of consumers.
I think this industry is a very exciting journey and a very exciting industry for many more years to come. So, and communication is something which will always be an integral part of our life. So public relation is one such domain, I think, and contributing in that field is something which is, I think, our privilege here.
We are change agents in an industry which was first very, very traditional, print and paper. Today it has gone from not only online PR platforms or online news platforms, it has gone to social, it has gone to podcasts, there are tools evolving, there are formats evolving. I think all of that is being enabled by the industry, and that is where the future is lying.
Power-packed with a lot of learning, conversations and discussions, the inaugural edition of India Communication Summit 2019 came to a close. And to celebrate some of the greatest and most talked about works done in this field, tomorrow's episode will showcase the Kaleido Awards to recognize the industry's ace communicators.
Partnered by Times Influence.